Hello everyone. I'm back again today, and today we've got a really interesting person. I am so amazed. Emma, welcome to the Indie Podcast. And the thing that's blown me away from you is you are the voice of Mind the Gap on the London Underground.
Indeed, I'm one of the Mind the Gap voices,
One of
yes.
the Mind the Gap voices. But actually, you've got so many different talents. You're into voiceover. You appear in all sorts of places. Tell us a little bit about you, just so that people...
Yeah, sure. Well, I started as a professional voiceover really as pretty much a child. I wrote the BBC here in Manchester. I'm speaking to you today from Manchester. And I wanted to get into broadcasting because I've always been fascinated with audio, fascinated with communicating, fascinated with that whole medium and how it can convey emotions, messages. It's just incredibly potent as a medium, audio, and I loved it even as a kid. So I wrote to them and said, could I come along and do an audition for you? And amazingly, they said yes, which was absolutely incredible. So I put together 6 pieces of poetry and prose reading and drama to go and read to them, all very different pieces. So I rocked up to BBC North into the big old radio drama studio, which is a fantastic acoustic space. And it was just me and a microphone. And I couldn't see the control room. They were elsewhere in the building. I didn't know where. So I recorded these 6 pieces. And then at the end, a door opened behind these big acoustic blankets. And then all these blokes came out, and they were all the producers who'd been listening. And then from that, I started getting work, and I worked across some quite highbrow poetry and prose reading and some drama. And then I started off doing light entertainment with them as well for Radio 4, which was brilliant. And then I sort of, over time, sort of morphed into recording commercials for radio and TV and that kind of thing. And that's what I've done pretty much all my life. So I've always earned my living from speaking, really. That's it. That's how I've funded my entire life.
Well, we're going to come back to how you funded your life in a few moments, because actually the real reason I wanted to get you on here was actually because you are a classic indie. I'm not done yet. And you've gone back to university.
I have. Well, I didn't even go there in the first place.
Right, yes.
I set my business up when I was 17. And there just was no time for me to go to university because my business as a performer was really taking off. And I really wanted to own my own home as soon as possible. So I spent the next, 2.5 years saving up as much as I could so I could buy my first house. So I didn't go to uni. But during lockdown, I started composing classical music. I've been a classical guitarist since I was a kid. And I've always heard music. As I say, I'm fascinated with audio, fascinated with music, just fascinated with sound in general. And I started composing music that I'd always heard in my head, always heard music in my head. And I thought, what if I wrote it down, actually? Because I'd written bits down for classical guitar, but I was hearing orchestral music and string quartet music and all this stuff in my head. So I started writing it down, and I found I could do it. I mean, it wasn't great, don't get me wrong, it was not great at all, but I loved doing it and I loved the challenge of doing it. So I contacted Adam Gorb, who at the time was the head of the School of Composition at the Royal Northern College of Music, and said, could you recommend a teacher for me? And so he very kindly put me in touch with this incredible teacher, Tom Harold, who then I had one-to-one lessons with him. And he said, after about 10 weeks or so, would you consider doing a master's in music composition? And I said, I don't think they'll have me because I've not got an undergrad degree. What chance is there of me, some chancer who's just downloaded some software and started doodling around with music? gut of getting on a master's program. So they said, no, I think you should give it a go, give it a go. It was really encouraging. And so I did. I applied to Leeds Conservatoire and I got accepted on the course and I did my master's and I flew through it, loved it. And then they said, would you consider doing a PhD? Which blew me away. And so I applied to the Royal Northern College of Music to study a PhD in music composition there. And that's what I'm doing now. I mean, as well as running my business, I'm still running my business. You know, I still have to work, but I'm a part-time PGR at the RNCM. So yeah, in that sense, I've gone back to uni.
I think that's an amazing story, because you found a bit of a passion,
Yeah,
and you found a way to make that passion happen.
yeah.
And it must have been quite daunting, the thought
Oh,
of going
terrifying.
back to university.
Yeah, terrifying, because you know, I'm obviously older than a lot of the other students, and I didn't know if I was going to stick out like a sore thumb. I didn't know if I'd be the saddo in the corner of the cafeteria that nobody'd want to talk to. I didn't know how I would just gel with that whole institutional approach to education. I didn't know. And what really blew me away when I did my master's was how brilliant it was being part of the cohort, because for all my working life I've worked alone, and I've been a lone wolf, really, effectively, for decades, being trapped in a cupboard talking to people that I never meet and don't see, because I'm recording voiceovers and it's a very solitary business. But being part of a cohort at university was just fantastic, and just the dynamic ideas, the fun that people had, the sense of camaraderie. When I finished my master's, I didn't want that to go, so I was delighted when I got the chance to continue that at the RNCM, and they've been brilliant. The students, the lecturers, the whole team there has just been so accepting and incredibly supportive of me. I mean, not that, oh, you're an old bird and we'll just, you know, we'll help you as much as we can, dear. There's none of that. You're just a student, and they give you as much attention as they do everyone else. But I've never felt like an oddity, or like I'm not fitting in, or that I'm somehow other in any way. So it's just been brilliant for me. I've loved it. I do love it.
You know, if people are out there thinking, you know, should I go back to education? What advice? What would you tell them?
I'd say, well, what's stopping you? What is stopping you? Is it that you don't think you'll cope with the work? Well, get out of your own way and get the work done. Really, you make a choice. Do the work or don't do the work. Choose to do the work. It's as simple as that. Choose to engage with it. If you find it difficult, that's a good thing, because it stretches you. Don't be scared of finding things difficult, because then you're learning new skills. You're applying yourself. You're stretching your own mind. You're open to ideas, and you're encouraging your mind to be creative. And it is challenging. It is difficult, but that's a good thing. So do it. Get out of your own way. If you're scared of not fitting in, well, with an attitude like that, you won't fit in. So put that out the way and just expect to fit in, expect to have a good time, expect to make friends when you're there, expect to be treated well by your academic colleagues and your academic supervisors. Do it. Really think about what the self-limiting beliefs are that are stopping you from doing it, and think, are they really valid? Are these really genuine concerns that I need to be mindful of? If they are, deal with them, mitigate them. If they're not, and they're just fanciful, put them away. Put them away. Don't let anything hold you back, because you'll regret it. You know, if your future you will be grateful if you put aside concerns and fears and just go for it. It's so important not to live your life governed by fear. And the older we get, maybe there's physical challenges, maybe there's all sorts of other challenges in your life. Use the resources you have so that future you will be grateful, and you'll love it. You'll love the journey.
That is amazing advice for someone. Can I pick your brains a little bit more? Because
Yeah, of course.
you spoke about the fact you've lived your life as a lone wolf,
Yeah.
and actually it was the camaraderie and the cohort.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I'm not done yet out there indies who actually come the reverse way. You know,
Yes.
we go into salaried employment, we work in big companies or small companies, but we work with a team, and eventually it gets to the point, you know, quite often in mid-50s, late 50s, where we suddenly realize we've got to be a consultant, we've got to be self-employed to earn a crust.
Yeah.
But it seems like you've probably learned a few lessons on the way. So have you got any good advice to how to be a good sort of self-employed person, how to be a good lone wolf?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing is you've got to take it seriously. I mean, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I couldn't be self-employed, I haven't got the self-discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the self-discipline. You have to get up at the same time every day. You have to have set working hours, and you have to set yourself tasks just the same way that you would if you were salaried and had a manager, had a boss. You need to be your own boss. So you prescribe your own work and you ensure that you get it done. And if you have to work to earn money, then my God, you're going to be motivated to get that work done.
Yes.
Because if you don't do the work, you don't get paid. It's as simple as that. So you've got to be self-motivated. You've also got to give excellent customer service from start to finish and beyond the sale. You have to give excellent customer service. You have to anticipate your customers' challenges and problems so that you smooth the way for them as they're buying your products and services to make it as simple for them as possible. Your communication has to be timely, it has to be clear, it has to be reasonable and diplomatic. And I think as somebody working in the creative industries, creative diplomacy is really important when you're dealing with clients whose opinions and whose direction for how they're wanting you to do their project may not be the best. They may not be coming from a place of knowledge, whereas maybe you are, because you know your job and you know what works probably a little bit better sometimes than the client. So there's a lot of diplomacy that has to happen. So yeah, having really good communication skills and good emotional intelligence will get you a long way as a freelancer as well. And the final thing I'd say, my God, you've got to have resilience.
Yeah.
My entire career, I have worked through, I think it's 5 recessions now. I lose count. The banking crisis. Now we've got the cost of living crisis, wars, the pandemic, and there are often external forces beyond your control that impact your business, your mind, your body, your well-being, and you have to find ways of dealing with that to survive and adapt. I also think being in denial about a situation is never going to help. If you can see that your industry, your job, your sector, your locality, whatever it is, wherever your niche sits, is changing and evolving, you have to be awake to that. Being in denial about it and thinking it isn't really happening and burying your head in the sand is never going to work. You have to be awake to these changes that happen in society, in the way people do business and technology, all sorts of different things. And you have to be prepared to be agile and pivot and look at creating different income streams for a different environment, a different audience.
I love the fact that we've kind of gone across to sort of alternative technologies, and I did want to chat to you because I think I know that you've kind of been fascinated by voices and AI and how the world is changing, and one of my fascinations is and hopes is that technology can be used for good as we get
Yes.
older.
Yes.
But there are some downsides.
Yes. Huge.
So what are your views on AI and the technologies that are coming forward?
I'm very concerned about AI. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Luddite, and I don't think that we can stop. It's like King Canute, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sea is coming towards you, you can't stop it. It's here, AI is here. But I do think that, personally for me, I have really big ethical concerns about how my voice as a professional voiceover could be harvested by an AI company and then used for nefarious means by bad actors. And by that, I mean propaganda, I mean torture, pornography, criminal activity, fraud, scams, all sorts of stuff. And that concerns me very, very deeply. In my T's and C's on my website and on my invoices is a clause saying that my customers cannot use and cannot scrape my voice for use for any other purpose than that which we've agreed, and it can never be used to be cloned to create another version of my voice, because I need control of my voice at all times. So I have big concerns about AI.
The jury's out, really, isn't it, in terms of, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I also
hopefully a good thing.
I hope so, but I think it's going to be a rocky road along the way. And I also think it's not been fully appreciated how many professions will be swallowed up by AI. I'm seeing it a lot in the industries that I work with, and it's very concerning that human creativity is being eroded by the apparent cost effectiveness of AI. And I don't think that a computer rendering of human creativity is ever going to be fully satisfactory.
This is very true. But you use the other A word, agile, and I guess that's what we have to be with AI and future technologies.
Yeah, we do. We do. I think we need to be completely alive to what is happening with AI and adapt accordingly. And I hope that, legislators and governments are across this. AI is moving very, very fast. I've literally seen in the past 6 weeks, AI has changed completely and is evolving all the time. And legislators will always be tardy because that's the nature of their work. It's laborious. They look into the minutiae, and I'm sorry, but the world is moving too quick for that kind of approach. They've got to become more agile. They have to. And my concern is that governments and legislators are too late.
Hopefully not. But
hopefully not.
I guess we could talk all afternoon, you and I, on this podcast, but I guess I do need to bring it to a little bit of an end. But if people would like to find out more about you, I'm presuming there's a website and a way to contact you?
There is indeed. You can visit emmaclark.com, and there's an E on the end of Clark, and check out my work. Listen to the voiceover samples on there, listen to the music that I write, and read my blog. I have a newsletter as well that you can sign up to. That goes out at least once a week with all sorts of stuff in there.
I can highly recommend it. Honestly, I spent a good hour today listening into the podcast and some of the voices there. Thank you, Emma, for chatting with us today.
Pleasure.